I'm Grace Espindola, Yuba City Council member and Vice Chair of the Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency. We have Todd Kimmelshoes, the supervisor, and unfortunately he could not be here today from Butte County, so he asked me to cover for him. So thank you so much for being here today on this first phase of the Yuba City Boat Ramp sediment removal project. To be honest, I had no idea what this was. When I got here, quickly started learning what a treasure of our own river, but the work that Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency does. We have some guests here, and it would be terrible if I missed anyone. I say that, I apologize in advance. We have Senator Jim Nielsen in the room here or in the space, and we have our Assemblyman James Gallagher here, and we have our DWR Deputy Director Gary Lippner here as well, and we have our president of a long title of an organization, James Stone, as well. And then we have board members from the Sutter Butte. Can you raise your hand if you're in this space with us? I saw Andrew. Who else is Drew? Anyone else a board member that is here? No? Okay. We have our city manager, Davon, here with us. And we have some sheriff back there. I don't want to leave everyone out. Is there anyone that I left that I didn't get to mention that you would like to make sure I capture you? Okay. All right. Well, believe it or not, it was only 7 years ago that the Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency broke ground not too far from this location on an aggressive program to fix the West Feather River levee from Thermalito After Bay in Butte County south to the Sutter Butte bypass. The agency recently completed that $400 million project in partnership with the State Department of Water Resources and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. That established and successful partnership is being put to work again for this important effort. This project will remove sediment buildup in parts of the Feather River that were worsened by the storms of early 2017 and a failure of the Oroville Spillway. We are familiar with that as it happened years ago. With this project, our task is to remove the sediment and to improve safety, restore recreation, access to the river, and restore water flow and fish passage. As we know, there are many fisher people in this community. I am going to set up a tour to try to do my own fishing here soon. The project, I mentioned that. The first phase of the project, which is already underway behind us, will remove approximately 66,000 cubic yards of materials. As we can see, this is working right now at this point. And in this, we'll be improving the safety of the boat ramp, improving access and navigation. That work is being funded by Prop 68 grant through the California Natural Resource Agency. The remaining work, the removal of 250,000 cubic yards of material downstream to improve fish passage and water flow, has yet to be funded. That's kind of the cue right there, yet to be funded. I'm reminded that when we began the effort to improve the Feather River West levees, we didn't have any funding. That's the other cue. What we had is a lot of great relationships with community, with partners. And in those relationships, it was a determination that we built on and the belief that if we got started, the funding will follow. That was a joke if you didn't get that. And the support, we cannot have accomplished this without the support, the tenacity and the work by our Senator Jim Nielsen, Assemblymember James Gallagher, the relationships and the work with our natural resource agency, DWR, represented, as I mentioned today, by the director, Gary Lippner, and James of NorCal Guides Sportsmen's Association. And so what we're going to do now is ask each person. We're going to begin with Senator Nielsen and then our Assemblyman Gallagher and go down the same line for a few words of comments here.
Well, folks, I finally got a little cause for some optimism and good feelings of late because of the drought and the dead pool at Lake Oroville and the fires. It's not been much of an encouraging thing. But getting this going is. I've spent my whole career dealing with managing our forests and our wildlands and our resources. I represented North and Central Delta for many years, as well as almost all of the Sacramento River and its watershed. And we've had these battles. Something comes to mind of late when we had the failure of the spillway at Oroville. And I was talking with an official. I won't name who or where, but what official rather, but it was there at the spillway. And the breakage had then, we had 3 60-foot islands created at the foot of the spillway. And I said, well, are we going to dredge that? Do we have a problem of siltation in the river? Oh, it's only here at the end of the spillway. That's the only, you're not going to do any more dredging other than at the spillway? Yeah, that's all we're going to do. I said, well, you mean that we do not have any erosion anywhere else along the river to be concerned with? Oh, no, it's just that we get those 2 islands out of there. So I think Dutra did the dredging on that. But the point of the short-sightedness of not acknowledging that this whole situation is dynamic. And Mr. Stone took me down the river here a while back. We noticed a number of things, including the siltation and the impact on our fisheries. We noticed the impact of the encampments along the river. And I have to tell you a funny story about that. We live on the river up in Red Bluff. I got up one Saturday morning about 1.5 years ago. I look out and I see all this trash coming down the river. I said, man, looked like a garbage truck must have crashed into the river. Within a half an hour, half the river was brown and more trash. And I realized what had happened. Just about a half a mile up from us to the north, between our place and the bridge, there's a little creek that comes in. Wonderful habitat for homeless. Well, what happened? We had the big storm that night. So all of their effluent and trash got flushed into the river. Thought that was just wonderful. Now, must have solved their problem of cleaning up things. No, it was our problem, not theirs, because they don't worry about the trash. But I think the point that all that complicated and bunch of stories I'm telling means that we as humans have got to work together with our environment to ensure. And it takes effort on our part. And some of the things we have to do is what you're doing right here. And that improves the habitat, that improves the lives, it improves the ability and the carrying capacity of our rivers and our streams, and that is important. So thank you. This is a day of celebration and one that's well needed right now because we've got some tough times that we're living. But thank you all. And let's savor the victory here today, folks. And fish and humans will profit from what we're doing here today.
Well, thank you, Jim, and it's a pleasure to be with everybody here this morning. You know, what I want to highlight is, this is a great day, great project, getting off the ground. a lot of work that has taken a lot of people working together, a lot of different agencies and really stakeholders, community stakeholders working together to make this happen. But what I want to emphasize is that, one, this is exactly the types of projects that we should be doing. And not only that is this the type of project we should be doing, but we need to be doing a whole lot more of them, throughout the state. Now, Senator Nielsen and I, we've been very critical here in recent weeks of how water is managed in this state. And it's managed that way because of policy, bad policy, I believe, and the senator believes. And it's really not taking into account how this system all works together. And the things that we are experiencing. Droughts and floods are not new to us. I mean, especially this community, knows well the threat of flood and of drought. And we face these droughts and floods since the beginning of California's statehood and battled against them, battling the inland sea, as they say in that famous book that was written. But the way that we move forward here, and we've been saying this, is voluntary agreements and finishing out these projects, river corridor projects. We have one for this corridor, for the Lower Feather River Corridor study that was done over a decade ago now. I remember being on the Board of Supervisors when that came out, but we haven't funded it, and we haven't made sure that we're doing all of those things. It's not about just sending more water down the river. That's been the Water Board's policy, and it's a flawed policy. It's a policy that not only devastates agriculture in our communities in the North Valley, but it doesn't actually provide any new habitat for fish. It doesn't provide any better quality of life for salmon and for spawning and for juvenile salmon that are trying to survive in these rivers. But voluntary agreements, which Sacramento Valley landowners and Central Valley landowners are willing to do and are stepping up to do that. DWR has been working very closely with all those groups in doing that. Who stands in the way of that? Who stands in the way of doing projects like this where we're removing sediment, we're creating a better river system, and we're making it better for recreation? That's a true multi-benefit project. It's good for people, it's good for the environment. We could do that up and down this corridor if the governor and the State Water Board would get on board with voluntary agreements and make them happen. We've been pushing for that. And these are the types of great projects that we could do, not just here in Yuba City, but throughout the valley, throughout this great valley. And we'll have a better river system as a result of it. We'll have more water for all of our needs in this state. And we need to start managing our reservoirs, taking into account this new reality, where we're not getting as much runoff, where we're having surges of floodwaters that come like in 2017. We start managing our reservoirs that way, we'll have more water in drought and less water when we have those surges and we're trying to manage for Oroville. So I really appreciate all the people who've been involved in this. This really went back to, I remember when we first started talking about this project. The spillway incident just happened, as Jim was talking about, and James Stone and many others in the community came forward and said, we've got to do something about the sediment buildup in our rivers. And we fought really hard in budget negotiations, both Jim and I, to ensure that money was set aside to do this kind of work. It wasn't easy, I can tell you. It is not easy to get anything in these budgets. And we ended up getting that funding set aside. DWR said, we're ready to put together the projects. We need a partner. And Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency said, well, we're willing to step up, of course, as they always are when it comes to water resources and flood projects. And really everybody worked together from that first stage of getting the funding and now today to what you're seeing out here. It can be done if we have the political will to move forward. So we're going to keep working on that. I know I can count on all of you as we work to move forward, make this not just a singular project, but part of a much bigger process moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gary Lippner, the Deputy Director for Department of Water Resources, Flood Management, and Dam Safety. I'm honored to be here today on behalf of the Natural Resources Secretary Wade Crowfoot, as well as the Department of Water Resources Director, Carla Namath. I'd also like to thank a couple of key advocates for having this project and moving it forward. Senator Jim Nielsen, as well as Member Gallagher James Gallagher have absolutely been essential at being project advocates to advance this project to move it forward. I'd also like to thank the Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency for leading the implementation of this project to move it forward as well. Know that the state is committed to continuing our partnerships with local agencies to maintain rivers and waterways. This project received funding from the California Natural Resources Agency through Proposition 68 to remove sediment and improve recreation access, public safety, water conveyance, and fish passage on the Feather River. This type of project not only aligns with the governor's water resiliency portfolio, but it is also the type of multi-benefit project that uses common sense approaches combined with the latest science to increase access, enhance habitat, and increase climate resiliency. I look forward to the successful implementation of this project, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today.
And last but not least, James.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Hello, everybody. My name is James Stone, and I'm the Executive Director and President of NorCal Guides and Sportsmen's Association. NorCal Guides and Sportsmen's Association started in 1992 as a nonprofit organization out of Redding, California, in order to fight for access and opportunity and better fisheries for all of us in Northern California. As many people might determine that one of the largest tourism things that happen in Sutter, Yuba, Butte counties is fishing and hunting, believe it or not. A lot of people don't know that. They don't realize that in this community that our #1 economical driver of tourism is right behind me, our rivers. Being able to access our rivers, whether we're kayaking, whether we're boating, whether we're fishing, or we're just recreating with our families, friends, or our small businesses that operate. Our organization represents over 623 small businesses that need this ramp to be clean, and they need this sediment to be removed in order to access the mouth of the Yuba River, as well as other areas of the Feather River, which are considered publicly trusted resources. I want to champion our Assemblyman, James Gallagher, our Senator, Jim Nielsen, Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency, and Chris with PBI Engineering, and DWR for everything that they have done to make sure that this project became a reality. As you've heard from others, this project all started 4 years ago on a little boat tour upstream to show how much farming land has eroded into the Feather River over the mismanagement of the high flows that were dropped during the 2017 crisis. And as Assemblyman Gallagher mentioned, this problem has been transpiring for a number of years. However, we're now finally doing something about it. And so thank you. This is a great start, and this is a great beginning to start cleaning up this river and remove the sediment to allow access, to allow opportunity for our kids and our grandkids to go enjoy this wonderful river that we have in our backyards, as well as bringing in tourism from other areas, and to making sure that we're supporting our small businesses. Because many of my guides right now are out of state because they can't work here. They can't work in our own communities. 3 of my board members are in Alaska, guiding salmon in Alaska right now. And we feel that we need help, and we need the government to step up and to raise more fish, to clean up our rivers once and for all, so that we can all enjoy our publicly trusted resources on the Feather and Yuba rivers right here in our backyard. Thank you.
James, your passion and your commitment to do this work is beyond measure, and I really appreciate you taking some of this and helping us understand, and with Assemblymember Gallagher and Senator Nielsen, thank you for your work as well and all of this and helping us with DWR. Thank you, gentlemen, for the work that you're doing to help improve our community public safety recreations, as we have repeatedly said, in the environment in our community. We are looking forward to work with you to secure the funding. This is where the ask comes in. Where's the secure the funding for the second phase of this, so we can then complete the initial phase that we began in celebrating the project's completion. And I just want to thank DWR for being here and acknowledging that our community in Yuba City and Sutter County in the region is able to launch into projects like this and work together as stakeholders and get this done. And I want to thank Mike Obisette, from our Executive Director, Sutter Butte Flood Control. Without you, we would have not been able to accomplish as much as we have. So thank you for your dedication and your hard work with your team as well. And so thank you for everyone coming today. If there are any questions, we can have our Senator and Assemblyman and our guests to come back up here if there are any questions to ask them, or make themselves available thereafter.